Who's on top?
And welcome back to episode 41 of Who's on Top. I'm your host, Ori Benari, and today we have a great episode planned for you. Daniel has expressed some gratitude and excitement with today's episode, so let's get right into it. I want to introduce our analysts. Today is December 9th, 2020. I'm sitting in my garage with Jacob Kazin, both our hoods on. That's the Frisbro.
What's up, guys? I have moved from my home to Ori's home, my second home.
Yeah, pretty much. We're both kind of freezing in my garage, but sore from a squat workout, and Jacob from looking at my squat workout. So, in Phi Slam with Jeremy, we have the namesake, Jeremy Giles.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. As always, at your service.
Very nice. I hear you're done with exams and a free man now.
I am very free, and I am very happy and chilling.
Very nice.
You're not
and now
chilling.
We have the Beady Boy, Ellis Gordon.
What's up, everyone?
So, Ellis, I want you to tell us what really inspired this E-boy look.
I'm cold, and I like beanie hats, so I wore one.
I saw 10-year-old Eminem and was like, that's my model.
The beanie hats don't like you.
And finally, speaking out of turn, we have the bandwagon Bucks fan, Daniel Fox.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom to you too. All right, seeing as we're all somewhat Jewish on this podcast, let's continue.
First night of Hanukkah tomorrow night.
It is. Light up, right, Jake?
Get lit.
Let's get lit.
We need
All right.
to get a house menorah.
We're going to be moving on to our favorite segment, most popular, says with all our analytics. Danny off the bench. Daniel, what do you have planned for us today?
And welcome to Danny off the bench.
And there's
Brought
only
to you
music
by
coming off the bench.
Kurosawa. It's not heaven, it's just Trader Joe's. And coup. Want to play a game that's zero fun and everyone can team up on you? Play some coup. Danny off the bench, number one. All right, it's 5 minutes in the game. I'm out to shoot some threes. They just put me in the game. I'm going to say the Steelers will not make it out of the divisional round. And you're like, Danny, the Steelers, they're 11-1. They're just undefeated. What gives? And I'm like, you're stupid. Watch the games. This is just not a team. It's just not a team that if I was the Chiefs or the Bills, I don't fear this team. I think they're extremely limited offensively. I think they rely too much on the big play. They have like one or two, Big Ben still throws a pretty good deep ball. But so if you watch the 3 deep balls a game, you think they're clicking. But if you watch everything in between that, it's just a lot of just stagnant offense. And we've seen they can't run the ball. They have a struggle. They struggle to score to close out games, as we saw against the Titans. And they just lost to the football team. They almost lost to the Cowboys. They were thoroughly outplayed by the Ravens the first time. Almost lost to them again without Lamar Jackson. Keep a Steven Gostkowski field goal away from going to overtime against the Titans. So this team could easily be 7-5. And that's kind of where I view them in terms of their talent level. Yes, their defense is great. TJ Watt is going to win Defensive Player of the Year. Hayden and Fitzpatrick are great corners in the secondary. But really, this offense just holds them back. And if they play the Bills or the Chiefs, I don't even know. I mean, we'll know more after next week when the Bills play the Steelers, which we will talk about later. But I just don't see them as a team that is one of the top 2 teams in the AFC.
No, I think this is a great hot take.
Oh, thanks.
But I don't know, if you're a betting man, I think you're still picking the Steelers to be top 2 teams. I mean, for all their flaws, I still think they're clearly the second best team in the conference, in the AFC. That said, this game against the Bills this week is going to prove a lot to them because the Bills right now are the 3rd seed. So, obviously I'm discounting upsets, which you can't do. But, imagine, the 1, 2, 3, and 4 seed all make it through. Then the Steelers would be playing the Bills, am I right?
Yep.
In the divisional round. So we'll see what they do against them this week and see to gauge that. But, yeah, we'll talk about that later. But, the Steelers, I mean, they're still, yes, they have the 100% flaws. They're not 11-0 team. They're still a very good team. And I think they're still an 8-3 team, really in reality, a 9-3 team, a 9-3 team, like the Bills. I think Dan's not giving their offense enough credit. Their running game's been awful, but Big Ben has been throwing some intermediate passes to Deontay Johnson, and Juju have been working. On top of that, their defense, of course, as Dan said, legendary. They're nowhere near the Chiefs, but I think they've got a leg up against the rest of the division. I just think people are overestimating how much of a leg that is. That said, a leg's still a leg. If I'm a betting man, I'm picking the Chiefs to go to the Steelers. Thank you, to play the Chiefs actually in the conference final. That said, I think this is a great hot take.
I believe it was the before we kick it over to Jeremy, I'm going to give you something. I know you're going to like. I know you're a big fan of the Herd. And there was videos going around, Colin Cowherd smoking a cigar as he does, looking all cool and stuff. And he was going through teams that he thought were better than the Steelers. And I think a lot of it was disrespectful. He's talking about the Saints and the Bills. He also brought up the Patriots. So what do you have to say to the Herd? You're a Herd.
Well, okay, well,
Idiotic.
let me put it like this. I do think Colin Cowherd is very smart. With that said, I think my one critique of him would be he gets stuck in his narrative often. And when he gets stuck in a narrative, he has trouble breaking it. For example, in his latest power rankings, he ranked the Browns above the Steelers, which I think is just disrespectful. Nothing.
We also said the Browns better.
So dumb.
Nothing against the Browns, but they played this year. The Steelers won 38-7. Like it wasn't like a close game where you're like, oh, one's turning up, one's turning down.
Well, that was week 2, right?
That was
that
was the point.
That's
My
my
point is that I think, to be honest, I'm going to give this a TBD for the Bills. Because I think since that game against the Browns, they haven't really had a convincing win against a good team in my mind, right? They've beaten the Titans, and I don't count the Ravens the second time, and the Ravens the first time, but both were like one-score things where they barely eked it out. And to be fair, they're good teams.
They were dominating that whole game.
Except against the Browns, against a good team, and they can't run the ball. I think to me that's the big problem, right? Like to win a Super Bowl, you're able to run the ball. Like even the Chiefs,
James Conner's coming back, so they'll help a little.
That'll help a little, but even with James Conner, they weren't necessarily great at it. Like even the Chiefs, they don't like running the ball, but they can.
James Conner has been dealing with injuries for a couple of years. We know that Benny Snell is not going to cut it.
Yeah,
he's not going to cut it. Maybe with a Patrick Mahomes, you could sneak in some draw plays and get him to sneak out a couple yards. But when they need to run the ball, they just can't. And we'll see if that changes with James Conner. That's a big if.
I think to me, the big thing is I could easily see them getting past the divisional round. I definitely don't think it's certain, but I could also kind of see them being the Ravens of last year, where they're a really good team, but against a lot of other good teams, they're kind of very limited. And quite honestly, I think though they will win a playoff game because I don't think they're going to win the number 1 seed. I think the Chiefs will because they now have the same record, and I think the Chiefs are a much better team.
Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, so back to this take. I agree with Ellis on this one. I think it's most likely going to be Steelers-Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. And, James Conner's been injured for a couple weeks, but he's back this week, COVID-free. And I think this offense is when he's there, the run game is there. But when he's not, they don't have any run game. Benny Snell has average of below 50 rush yards the last 2 games, not been effective at all. So I think they come back strong this week, and we'll finish out the season. I think they're going to be 13-3.
I mean, we got to give the Steelers a little credit that they're, plus 120 in point differential. So give them credit for that. My second hot take is one that's near and dear to my heart. And I just want to say to my good old friend, Bill Belichick, I think he's been doing a fantastic job given what he has this year. And I think he should be coach of the year. And that's Danny off the bench.
What?
And that's Danny off the bench number 2. Let me explain. Coach of the year is not the coach of the best team. It's the coach who does, in my opinion, the best job given with what he's given to work with. And Bill Belichick has been given 4 defensive starters out who opted out of COVID. And not just starters, the core of the team. When you talk about Patrick Chung, who's been a safety for 3 Super Bowls, Dante Hightower, their captain, basically. They have a quarterback who, in terms of conventional throwing the ball, is arguably the worst thrower in the league. You have a wide receiving core who I would argue, they've stepped up last couple of weeks, but they've been pretty trash. And they had to change at running back with Sony Michel. So you got all these moving pieces. And somehow Belichick, after going 3-6, and I thought it was over, has now reeled 3-5, and has now reeled off a couple of good wins against the Cardinals, Ravens, and now just a demolishing of the Chargers, which was such a classic Belichick game. He on upstart rookie and Justin Herbert completely shut him down. 2 special team scores, and I just think he's done such a fantastic job shutting down Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray. And just given what he's worked with, I think Bill Belichick has done the best job coaching in the NFL this year.
All right. To that point, yes, credit to Bill Belichick. He's done an amazing job with what he's
Credit
had.
to the Belichick.
Yes, credit to him. Greatest coach of all time, no doubt.
Really?
I think so.
Okay.
And yeah, I might have a little bit of bias here.
A little bit.
Joe Judge. Shut up, Tom Brady. Saquon Barkley out week 2. Oh, offensive line. 23 different offensive lineman arrangements, starting and throughout each game. They are 5-7 now, leading the division. I don't care about them leading the division at 5-7. They're winning their division. That's all that counts. This defense that he has built has been very, very good. One of the top 5 in the NFL, in my opinion. And obviously, their wins have come mostly against the NFC East, beating Seattle last week, shutting down Russell Wilson. DK Metcalf not shutting down, but in terms of what he's done this season, shutting him down. 6 catches for 80 yards, no touchdowns. Tyler Lockett was not involved that game. I know he was out for like a quarter, but he only had 3 or 4 catches. Chris Carson has slowed him down. The defense is built.
But if Joe Judge was not the coach of the year, who else do you see in the running?
Belichick. I think Belichick's.
You think Belichick's number 2?
I think Belichick's number 2.
Okay.
And also credit to is it Brian Flores with the Dolphins?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Daniel,
Brian Flores.
Daniel, let Jeremy talk.
Sorry, Mom.
I guess for me, I think there's kind of 2 problems with both of your arguments. Is that I think I'm not saying what Belichick has done isn't amazing, but I think my big thing about Belichick too is Belichick also serves to an extent as the general manager. Is that right? It has some say over personnel. So because of that, Belichick's role also is gathering personnel. And I understand the transition year. I'm not faulting him as a coach for that. With that said, given that he controls personnel, and clearly the personnel on the Patriots is really, really bad this year, I don't think it's fair to consider him for coach of the year. Yes, he's doing a lot with less. I guess to me also, coach of the year, I would want my coach of the year candidate to be on a good team, right? And the Giants, whatever you say they're good, they've won 5 games. And I'm not saying that Joe Judge hasn't done a good job, but I think if you're talking about a team that's done the most with the less, how could you choose Joe Judge over Bill Belichick? I get that they're winning the division, but Bill Belichick still has a better record. And while winning the division is important for football, for coach of the year, I don't think a 5-7 team should be considered for coach of the year. So I think for me, the 2 I'd consider are Mike Tomlin. I understand we said that they're a bit of frauds. They still went from 8-8 to being 11-0 at one point.
He's done a great job.
That's a huge jump with almost very similar personnel and dealing with significant injuries. I believe, what was it, Bud Dupree got injured recently?
Yeah.
Who it was? Or Brian Flores. Because, right, what were the Dolphins actually? 5 or 6 wins? Now they're potentially a playoff team. That's an entire completely switch around to a team that's
Right, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Giants last year, 2 wins.
The biggest
playoff.
guys, the
Hey, Mark.
biggest problem with Belichick's case for coach of the year, in my opinion, and not to say Belichick has had an amazing coaching year and he deserves to win coach of the year, but it's hard to justify coach of the year when you don't make the playoffs. And I still don't think.
Yeah.
I think Belichick will
That's
still
fair.
get some wins, but you're really going to give coach of the year to a coach that hasn't made the playoffs. When I'm winning coach of the year, I'm thinking number 1 for me is Brian Flores, but then you've also got teams like, we'll see. Either Ron Rivera or Joe Judge, whoever wins that division, deserves to be in the discussion. I don't think they'll win, but I think your top 3, in my opinion, should be Brian Flores, Mike Tomlin, and Sean Payton. Breeze has done great. Those are 3 great coaches. And yes, okay, but real quick, yes, people say, well, the best coaches are dealt with the winning teams, but part of that it's a
they make
chicken or the egg. They make the winning teams, too. So I get Belichick. Belichick certainly has a very high case. Again, like Dan's first hot take, I love the hot take. I don't think he will win unless the Pats make the playoffs. If they don't, it's down to those 5 I mentioned.
Yeah.
Those are great candidates. Joe Judge has done a great job with his defense. What, Ori?
I said I was going to say Ron Rivera's case definitely gets a lot more solidified with the win in Pittsburgh. I think
you guys have all brought up legitimate candidates. I was thinking maybe Andy Reid, but I think the Chiefs are just too dominant at this point.
Again, it's what you do with personnel, and I think that he has the best personnel in the league. So it's like, I think you could give Andy Reid's job to a mediocre coach,
Or
and
a bad coach.
and he would still get them.
He also won it with that personnel.
Yeah.
I think it's so far in Patrick Mahomes' hands right now that it doesn't really matter who's at the coaching position.
Oh,
I think the odds-on favorite right now is Sean Payton, especially what he's done when Drew Brees has gone out, the ability to just adapt the offense, which I thought they weren't going to be able to do. I think Brian Flores is the second. These past couple of weeks have kind of slowed it down, especially that loss against the Broncos. But I'm just saying, every game the Patriots have won this year, I've thought this is a masterclass by Bill Belichick, whether it's containing Lamar Jackson in the rain and playing ball control and getting their only one of their 2 touchdowns on a trick play, or this shellacking of the Chargers, who were pretty hot going in, or shutting down Kyler Murray, which no one's really been able to do. So that's why I think it's every win I feel like can be is a large part due to Bill Belichick's amazing game plan. Maybe that's just me watching these games, but that's just how
real quick. I don't think he should win coach of the
I think, like I said before, it's how the Patriots finish in the standings.
Yeah. And to finish kind of I don't think he should win coach of the year, but someone whose name deserves some recognition is Sean McDermott. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.